Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about corporal punishment. So I'm titling this video, We Were Beaten. And that's the reality for many from my generation, maybe even it's going on now in some families, because the simple matter is that for Jehovah's Witnesses and by extension many Christian fundamentalist groups, there's a very specific theology behind how to raise children, like an ideological perspective. And it's probably best summed up in Proverbs 13, verse 24. Whoever holds back his rod hates his son, but the one who loves him disciplines him diligently. And for me, and I'm suspecting a number of people watching this video, those words sting. They sting. Because there's pain associated with them. And in my own case, I remember having those words repeated to me in some form or other when my dad would put me over his knee and he would take a belt, a leather belt, and beat me with it. And he would say, I'm doing this because I love you, because the Bible tells me to do this. And if I didn't do this, it would mean that I don't love you. What a messed up thing to say. What a messed up thing to say in that situation. I am being physically violent towards you, my child, because I love you. It's what any narcissist would say, isn't it? Now, in fairness to my dad, I think he was sufficiently deluded to believe that this was the right thing to do, that he needed to strike me when I was naughty, which actually wasn't that often. I was actually quite a well-behaved child, in order to fulfill his commitments as a Christian parent. I think that he genuinely believed that. So when he said, I'm doing this because I love you, I don't think it was him just being sadistic. I think it was him being deluded and following this verse in the Bible. And I also don't think that my dad, who I haven't spoken to in years because he's obviously shunning me, because he's very passionate about holding on to his position as a Jehovah's Witness elder and therefore following the instructions for shunning to the letter. I don't think he's an intrinsically violent man, but that perhaps makes the whole thing more chilling. That someone who isn't an intrinsically violent person, someone who doesn't naturally respond to stressful situations with violence, can become violent due to what it says here. Now, since I was a kid, Jehovah's Witnesses have distanced themselves a bit from a literalist interpretation of these words. And nowadays, if you look up what Jehovah's Witness publications have to say about disciplining children, you won't find them talking about beating, about corporal punishment. They will talk more about disciplining in non-violent ways. But nowhere does the organization apologize the decades when parents were instructed to beat their children, including my generation. So there's no acknowledgement that this is the advice that people like my father were given by the organization. And as a result of this advice, entire generations of children were physically assaulted by their parents. That will never be printed, or that will never be acknowledged, I don't think, by the organization. It certainly isn't acknowledged now. They just kind of sweep it all away and pretend it never happened. But the truth is, it did happen. And if I think about the effect that it's had on me, well, the short-term effect of it happening was that I found it impossible to respect my father. Because how can you respect someone whose only solution to you displeasing them is to be violent towards you? In other words, to do something to you that's way worse than anything that you might have done to provoke this, you know? Oh, Lloyd was naughty in some way. Oh, well, the answer is to physically assault him, you know? I'm sorry, did Lloyd physically assault someone, you know? It's a disproportionate response. It's a violent response. And as a result of this, what my dad created was a son who could never respect him. I could never truly respect him. I remember him saying to me, Lloyd, you don't respect me. And I would sometimes, when I was feeling a little bit more liberated, say, well, you need to earn respect. And what do you say in response to that, you know? What do you say in response to that? But I could never respect my father, and that damaged a fundamental building block of my early life. Children need to be able to respect their parents, you know, in order to have a normal, healthy upbringing. And so that ability of me to respect my father was compromised very, very early on. Again, by what it says in the Bible, and also the way the Jehovah's Witness organization perpetuated this fundamentalist, Bible literalist view that in order to discipline your children, you need to not spare the rod. So that was the short-term problem, was that it made me fail to respect my father. And the long-term problem that it gave me was this question of what to do with my own children. Because when you're being beaten and you're being told, I'm only doing this because I love you. And then you have your own children, you start questioning yourself, because I knew from when Jessica was born, I now have 2 children, Jessica and Julia. I knew from when Jessica was born that there's no way I could hit her, that there's just no way I could lay a finger on her, you know. But that made me doubt myself, and it made me doubt my abilities as a father. Am I somehow failing to love my child because I am incapable of being violent towards them? So that's like the secondary effect that this had. And I was genuinely afraid when Jessica was born, of when she would start misbehaving and how I would deal with it. And the funny thing is, I don't know how many of you watching this are parents. Funny thing is, it's actually easier to discipline your children when you don't hit them. Who knew? Who knew? It's easier to discipline children, to teach them about right and wrong, to help them learn boundaries, and to help them learn about respecting other people, when you maintain their respect and when they can trust you, when they feel like they can trust you. Because how can you trust someone who's beating the crap out of you if you displease them in some way, you know? So I have the trust and respect and love of both of my children. In fact, I'm filming this in my apartment. You can see it's not a big place, and over there's my fridge. And maybe you can't see it, but in the background there's a thing that says Jessica did this. It says, "I love my dad." And it's just got a picture of me and her together. It's one of my favourite pictures that Jessica and Julia have made, because they love drawing all the time when they come to stay with me. And it makes me smile every time I see it, you know. I love my dad. When you have the love of your child, and a situation comes up where your child misbehaves, which happens all the time, when you have the love of your child, all you need to do is communicate. That's all it is, communication, and being invested and being engaged. So not kind of saying, "Oh, this is too stressful, I'll deal with this later." No, you deal with it there and then. I'm firm. I establish boundaries. If things are very serious, I might say, you need to have some time out. You're going to have some time by yourself, and then we're going to talk about this. The very worst case scenario is that I raise my voice. I use my Lloyd voice. As many of you know, I have a kind of quite a deep voice, and when it gets going, it's quite booming, you know. But that's the absolute worst thing that my children will ever have any memory of when they're older, is me shouting, which is inevitable, I think. We all get agitated sometimes and stressed out, and when we get stressed out, our volume rises, you know. It's not something I can really control. What I can definitely control is not being violent towards my children, you know, not beating them. And I'm very, very proud to say that never once have I beaten my children. And the result of that is that I have a very, very healthy relationship with both of my kids. They both love me. They fulfill me in a very profound way. They give me a reason for living, quite frankly. And I'm just making this video to acknowledge that this has happened, or is perhaps still happening. Because what happens when you don't denounce the past is that the past tends to get repeated. So I'm sure even now, even with the reduced kind of watered down language about disciplining children, I'm sure even now Jehovah's Witness children are being beaten. But I thought it would be good to address this in a video, just to create a space where we can talk about it. So what I'd really like to see from you, the viewers, is just, if you feel like you can, just to share your thoughts and memories. Because this does impact us. It has a profound psychological impact when a child is assaulted in any way, shape or form. And we need to talk about it. I'm sorry, we do. So please do share your thoughts and comments below. And the only other thing I would say is, if you are a parent who has ever resorted to hitting your child, maybe your children are now grown up and they've moved out. Maybe they're still living with you, maybe they're still children. All I would say, and I can't tell you what to do, but I would strongly, strongly advise that you say sorry. Say sorry. Seek their forgiveness. Because what you did was wrong when you hit your children. May have been in here, may have been in Watchtower publications, or it may have been in the publications of whatever fundamentalist religious group you grew up in. But it's still wrong and messed up that you physically assaulted your children. And you owe them an apology, and they will probably accept it. They will probably accept it. And then you'll have some closure, you know, and they'll be able to move forward to some degree. But I think it's worth talking about this. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. And thank you for letting me address this subject. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.